Hey everyone, Dennis Kay here with Belize Islands Real Estate. Hope you're all doing well today. A couple questions I've been receiving from viewers lately is should I go ahead and set up a corporation or a company now in anticipation of buying my real estate investments or holdings or future vacation home, retirement home? The answer is no. I do not recommend that you go ahead and form a company now because at this point, before you have identified the property, we really don't know which type of corporation we would advise you to form. For example, the question is how should I hold title to my real estate holdings in Belize? Should I hold them in one certain type of company, for multiple companies? Should I put them in my personal name? Well, the answer is different for every person. So, what I would suggest is if you want to talk about your own personal needs and requirements, go ahead, buy me a coffee at the link below. Let's get on a Zoom call and we can sort of walk you through some of the differences and why I might recommend one structure over another. Now, of course, with some of these things, you're probably going to want to consult your tax attorney or your accountant in the United States, Canada, Europe, because sometimes you want to know details about how your taxes might be affected by you owning property in Belize. But that's a completely different topic, and it's something that I don't pretend to be an expert on. I know what I do for myself, but my holdings are different than yours might be because I'm actually an expat living outside of the country. So to answer the question, how might you hold title to your real estate in Belize? Let's say, for example, you are purchasing a beachfront property at Secret Beach, or maybe an off beach property on the northeast side of Ambergris Caye. So, how would you take title to a simple piece of vacant land? The vacant land could be $50,000 or $250,000. How should you hold title? Well, there are several different ways to hold title. First of all, number one, you can just hold title in your personal names. So for example, let's get this back up here. I could hold title in Dennis K. I could own title in Dennis and Stephanie K jointly, right? To any sort of property that I buy in Belize. It's not the most protective, and usually I don't recommend people owning property in their personal names, but you can certainly do that if you want. The second thing you could do is hold title in a Belize Chapter 250 corporation. Now, what that is a very simple corporation that Alberto and his team at Belize Key Investments can help you form. It's not that expensive to form, and the annual renew costs are very, very reasonable. And for example, what I would do is when I'm looking to buy a property in Belize and I find out that it's owned by a local Belizean, or if I find out that it's held in a Belizean Chapter 250 corporation, I will either form a new Belize Chapter 250 corporation to take title, or I will use one of my existing Belize Chapter 250 corporations. It just depends on what I'm going to be doing with the property. If I'm going to keep it for myself, for my future holdings to build on, or if I'm going to pass it on to my other investors. I could also, and you could also, form a Belizean IBC. Now, this is something new. This wasn't allowed in the past, but recently there's been a change in the laws. So you could form an international business company that is held in Belize called a Belizean IBC that comes with different pros and cons. Or you could form and hold property in an offshore IBC. For example, I have an Anguillan IBC. A lot of the properties that are being sold right now, for example, in Grand Belizean Estates, Mahogany Bay Village, Palmyra Woods, those lots have been individually titled in Anguillan IBCs. And so, if you're buying one of those properties, I would recommend often that you just assume that corporation, that offshore IBC, because of the protections it gives and because of the value that that holds. You could also hold title in an LLC, a family trust, other things like that. So I don't want you to get too hung up and complicated. This stuff really isn't complicated. I might be using some terminology that you're not used to, but basically, here's what we do is if you come to me and say, Dennis, I'm looking for a property at, let's say, Secret Beach. If we find a property, all right, the first thing I do is look at who owns the property. Is it held in someone's personal name? Are they foreigners, perhaps Americans or Canadians? Is that property held by a local? Is in their personal names or Chapter 250 corporation? And then I very easily can make a recommendation. in which way I feel that you could hold title. So we look at how is the title how is the property currently titled, what you plan to do with the property, and your current ownership structure now versus the future. And what I mean by that is, let's say you are up in your, let's say, golden years, retirement years, and you plan on building a beautiful beachfront home, but you know that within a few short years you're going to be passing that asset on to maybe the children or the grandchildren, and that's going to kind of like be your family estate for generations to come. Well, you might ask Alberto and his team, based on that, which one of these ownership structures makes the most sense for me? How can I most easily transfer this property from my wife and I to the kids? If I got two kids, do I give them each 50%, or how does this work? So what I would consider is finding the property first, right? Getting it under contract. Now, with most of our agreement for sales, if you've seen these before, you see that we put the buyer description as your personal names and or assign. So for example, if I write up a deal to buy a property, I'll put Dennis and Stephanie Caye jointly and or assigns. And what the and or assigns does, it is allows me time to get with Alberto to say, you know what, how should I structure the ownership on this? And he'll tell me, Dennis, I recommend you do a Belize Chapter 250, or I recommend you do an IBC, or just your personal names. But I have some time in there, usually about 3 to 4 weeks, to decide if I want to form a corporation, keep it my name, pass it on, whatever I want to do with that. So you guys have time. So don't feel that you need to make a rush decision on this. If you get a property under contract with me, let's say today we find you a property and you say, Dennis, I want to get this under contract. That's fine. Let's get it under contract. Both parties sign. You get your earnest money in. But then we set up a Zoom call with Alberto and his team, and we say, okay, based on how the property is held, based on what we're going to be doing with the property, and also the value of the property, how do we recommend that you hold title? All right. So I hope this was helpful. You guys get any questions, comments, concerns, let me know. I'm here to help you out. And if you want to jump on a Zoom call with me, you know what to do. Hit me up with the link below. Buy me a coffee. It's pretty easy to do, and I love it. I appreciate it. And we'll see how we can get you in Belize, living the dream, just as soon as possible. All right. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.